Hey, good morning or good afternoon. Today is December 26th, and I want to do more than just talk about getting changes. And there are a lot of things we're disappointed in our country. We're disappointed that haven't taken place, but have we done all we can do to make changes? It's one thing to get together inside a Facebook group and write things or have discussions with our friends, our peers, but it's another thing to follow through with action. And in my opinion, a lot of our political leaders have stepped up to the plate and have given lip service to things, but have not followed through on action. And if we don't follow up with action and filing things and using the laws we have, then we'll never get changes. We can't just talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. And in 1968, a lot of things were done. One of the things that were done is a lot of state constitutions enacted the thing for judicial misconduct. And you have to think for a minute. These are our state laws. These are not federal laws. So is it coincidence that a few states got together and decided to write a constitutional amendment into the state constitutions? And I don't want to confuse this. We're not talking about the U.S. Constitution. We're talking about the state constitutions. And the state constitutions govern a lot of things that happen within our lives, probably more on a day-to-day basis than our U.S. Constitution. So what's the likelihood that a few states got together and say, this year we're going to make a constitutional amendment. And within that constitutional amendment, it's going to give the appearance that we're addressing judicial misconduct, when in reality, we're building a safety net because we're going to make it confidential that complaints of judicial misconduct will never get out unless there is a finding of probable cause to investigate. And we're going to shroud and protect that entire process in confidentiality. Less than 1% of judicial complaints they ever find probable cause to investigate. So there is no way to know if a judge has 500 complaints. And what this does is it enables judges to indirectly write law from the bench. For example, if Judge John Doe engaged in a certain action 50 times and they never find probable cause to investigate, the public is unaware. But if those complaints became public and the public says, hey, how come this judge has 50 similar complaints but has never been investigated? That brings things into the open and into the public. And in 1968, a lot of the state constitutions, Florida, Pennsylvania, I think Alaska, and some other states created this. And I'm sure if I did the research, we would find out that probably all of the United States created this confidentiality at the same time. And that's a red flag. Red flag. And we have the ability to change this. All state constitutions can be amended by the citizens. Not the Republicans, not the Democrats, but by the citizens. If the citizens of each individual state get together, and the laws vary from state to state, but I'm going to talk about my state, and I'm hoping that people will hear this message and go and do a little research and try to get things started in their state. In Florida, it takes pretty much 685,000 registered Florida voters' signature to amend the state constitution. Our state constitution's Article 5, Section 12 governs judicial complaints of misconduct. If we get 685,000 signatures, and there's a couple of things more to that, we can have the issue placed directly on the ballot. And all states have similar clauses. Now, the numbers may be a little bit different and certain things about how it's put in place, but the rules really aren't that complicated. And once we go and look, we're like, oh crap, it's not as complicated. But if we start this process, we can remove that confidentiality, which is a layer that protects the judicial governing bodies and judges. You take the cover from these judges' actions away, and then the citizens can see and demand that things take place. But as long as the judicial governing bodies, which in Florida is the Judicial Qualifications Commissions, are protected and never have to answer, then it goes on. I'll use Pennsylvania, for example. There was the case, maybe a couple of years ago, of the Cash for Kids, in which two judges, one judge name was Mark Schiavarelli, and I forget the other judge's name, but you can Google it. They literally sold kids to a private prison system, and they would sentence these kids to this juvenile correctional system in return for kickbacks, and they made a couple of $1 million. And it went from a thing of, just sentencing kids to prison or juvenile corrections, which is the child version of prison, for nothing. They have since been convicted. These judges engaged in these actions over a 5-year period, and it affected, I think, 2,000 or 4,000 cases had to be overturned. Now, you know that there were people that complained throughout this whole 5 years, and they were dismissed as disgruntled litigants, which is a term that the Supreme Courts and the various judicial governing bodies use as a protection. But I ask us to think critically as to what they're saying. Those judges are now convicted and in prison, but the number of complaints that were filed against them remains confidential. And now it protects the Pennsylvania Board of Judicial Misconduct or Judicial Conduct from having to explain why several people complained about these judges years prior, and they were dismissed as disgruntled litigants. And these judges are in jail. They're in prison. I'm sorry, not jail, prison. So why are we protecting the Pennsylvania Board of Judicial Conduct by keeping these complaints private? And that happens in every state. It happens in Florida. And the excuses that they give us do not hold water. They want to say, well, people will file complaints frivolously. I will use Florida stats, for example. There were about 1 million or several hundreds of thousands of motions filed in the state of Florida. In 2014, only 685 people filed judicial complaints of misconduct. So the fact that there were so few complaints filed actually shows that people do not file complaints frivolously, or else the numbers would be much higher. But we need to start to think and break down what is being told to us and stop accepting that because somebody has on a suit and a certain degree or may have a law license, that they're honest and the things that they're doing are correct. It's called self-preservation. And these people work within law and the judiciary and the legal system. So they have an incentive to protect these incestuous relationships that exist between judges and attorneys and everything. They self-govern. But we as citizens have the ability to surpass and override that if we use the tools that we have. And one of the tools that we have is the state constitutional amendment process. And I am appealing to people in all states. Let's get busy when 2016 comes through and somebody take the lead in each state to get the amendment process going. There are small things that we have to work out, but this vehicle of social media we have allows us to coordinate and work in a way that is efficient and not as big of a problem as once was in the past. We don't have to get on the bus. We don't have to march. I mean, we can march to Washington, but we can coordinate a multi-state um, campaign to change things right from our computers, right from our smartphones, our iPhone 6s. I don't got an iPhone 6, but we can do this if we take a little action. And to me, this is the perfect time for us to remind people and to remind our elected officials who have been bought and paid for through campaign contributions that you don't have the final say so. We have power and we will exercise it. So I'm posting this video, and it is my hope that when you see this video that you will paste it to your friends. I only have 1,100 friends, I think. But if I connect with my 1,100 friends and then you take it and connect with your friends and we pass it on, we can begin to coordinate a unified effort throughout the United States. PM me, instant message me, call me. Let's start to coordinate. There will have to be a lead person or persons in certain states, in each state, to get this started. But we can start the discussions. I'm so sick of seeing 4 million views of people twerking, of people fighting, and all type of things that we can people share views on of stupidity. But we don't share when trying to improve our governmental systems. I want this video to go viral, not for me, but so we can begin to connect and organize in an efficient manner in which our news stations ignore. If they can bombard us with faux news and all type of bullshit, then we can use the internet, which is free, to connect and to organize in a way that has not been done before in regards to correcting many of the wrongs within our society. So let's get busy. Let's do this.